Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my live stream today. For those of you who have been following along across the whole journey of doing live streams, you'll know that I was for a long time broadcasting from my kitchen, and it was a big journey to get the internet set up down the road in my workshop. With the horrendous storms that are sort of ravaging eastern Victoria at the moment, very luckily we have power and aren't too badly affected. But down at my workshop, the power and the internet is a little bit touch and go. So I'm coming to you today back from my kitchen, even though I had vowed never to do that again. Also, we've only got one camera set up to try and save internet because it is not perfect today. We'll be doing woodblock carving and printing. And as always, if you have questions as we go along or you just want to say hello, please just type that in the comments. That would be great. And if we do cut out during today, I suppose the internet will stop this live stream, but it will take me a couple of minutes to type it all out and set up another live stream. So if we do cut out, please just hang around for a few moments and I will kind of restart another one where we left off. Okay, so woodblock carving and printing. This is kind of really fun for beginners and not for beginners as well. Quite advanced. You can get more and more intricate details in your designs, but it's great because you don't actually have to carve very deep at all. So you can do quite shallow carving and just use marks and textures to get a lot of stuff. So just jump straight in. So today we will be carving this fish design. It's a little bit scrappy. Once the live stream's over, I will put a copy of it up on my website for you to download if you want to play this again and carve along and carve the same picture as me. So that could be fun. Hello, everybody saying hello. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's nice to know the chat works because it hasn't always worked for us, has it? So first step for woodblock carving, you take your design and you transfer it onto your piece of timber. I am using just cheap plywood today. You don't have to use anything fancy, but keep in mind, I have my grain running in this direction. So you should always think about your grain direction. And the reason I've got it running across like this is because I'm hoping when I carve the water, it will kind of add to that. Whereas if I had a bit of grain showing in this direction, that would look a bit strange through my water. I did do a little poll about this on Instagram and Facebook last night about what design we should pick. And leaping fish clearly outwon two onions. So I was kind of glad. I think this is a bit more of a fun design. So we'll get into this. Traditionally for woodblock carving, though, I should say they often use like a really tight grained timber. So you don't get a lot of the timber grain showing through. Also, because you need to wash your woodblock between carvings, the tighter grained your timber, the more likely it is to survive and give you a really clear image for multiple prints. I'm using plywood today. Some really great options are like cherry or maple or something really nice and tight, but just experiment with whatever you've got around. All right, I'm just going to tilt the computer camera screen down and we will get cracking. Here we go. Cool. Now, I hope you all can see that. I wouldn't normally do it in Texter, but I did it in Texter so that you could see it more clearly. So that's my reference. This is my piece of timber I'll be carving. You really don't need many tools. I'm just going to start off with a V. This is such a forgiving method. If you're just doing a simple design like this one, it doesn't matter what size V tool you use. Just use whatever you have on hand. So I want to remove the background of this fish. And anything that I remove, I won't see when I print. So anything that is left, I will see. And my image will become the reverse of that as I flip it. So I'm just following along. outline here. Going right across that grain there. I'm not worried about running out like that because this whole background needs to be removed. But I think that is a little dull. That is poor of me. I'm just going to swap to a little palm gouge. These are great. So you just use it. Here we go. I think this is giving me slightly more resistance than I anticipated. So I'm actually going to come at it with a mallet. And remember, when you're using a mallet, when you're carving, you get a little bit more control. I'm going to pivot off the ball of my left hand. I am right-handed, so I'm going to use my... That's better. Please excuse the whole table wobbling today. You can see I'm really not attacking that very well, am I? Where I've got this tear out, I'm just going to get a reasonably wide and shallow gouge there. This is, those of you watch regularly, 3F20, my absolute favorite. And I'm just going to cut that a little neater. Now, I want to have a few little droplets. So I'm just going to come around those. Just want those little drops flying off my fish to be left. Now, because this is, to put it bluntly, quite a cheap piece of plywood. We will still get the grain because it's got a bit of fuzz and a bit of texture, but I think that'll really aid the water effect. We hope. Please, if anyone has any questions, do pop those in the comments. So you can see I'm just got an outline around my fish. I've gone so shallow, like it really doesn't matter. And now I'm just going to come and get my horizon line. I'm just using my hand pressure with a double-handed grip there like that, with the end of the tool in the palm of my hand. I'm just letting it have a bit of movement. Stop for that drop. The straightest horizon I've ever done, but not to worry. Just coming around these little drops there. When you are designing your woodblock print, if you don't want to copy this design I've done, it's a good idea to think of things that would look great with a lot of color left in them. So you can, it's great for doing silhouettes if you're just starting out. You could do a black cat and just remove the background and just sort of a few lines like that for hair or texture. You know, a night sky or rocket in space. Like there's lots of options. At this point, I'm questioning why I wanted so many water drops. See, I'm really wiggling that tool there, excuse me, to get it round that corner. And as you remember from previous live streams, each wiggle like that is a fresh cut. So it's like cut, 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 cut. So it gives you a lot of control. Okay, so now that I have this fish and all those water drops, so everything above my horizon line, because I want to remove that background, edged, I should say, I'm going to come in with a shallow tool and I'm just going to might try something with a bit more scoop. That was my 3F. Now moving on to a 520. Please excuse my workbench having a little wiggle there. It's not. I'm just trying to move this background. Where I've got little ridges and stuff, I will still get little bits of ink picking up on those. Sorry guys, I'm just going to try to shove a wedge under this table quickly. Stop that wobbling. I did a practice before I started the stream today and it did not wobble, but of course now that we're going, it will wobble. Okay, let's hope that's a little better. Fractionally would be the only word you could use, wouldn't it? So you can see I'm still using quite a scooping motion. I'm starting my cut on one side of the blade and ending it on the other. Sorry, twisting motion might be a better descriptor of that. I'm coming around. Really want to get in, using that corner to guide in around that edge of my fish there. Now, of course, this really does, like, if you use nicer timber, you wouldn't be getting this flaking. But then you also probably wouldn't get your timber grain showing up as much. And we're hoping it gives us a good effect with the water. I didn't test it, so it might be my downfall. I'm trying to keep my cuts going in the same direction like that, largely so that these little ridges, if I do get a tiny bit of ink picking up on those, it'll have a bit more, maybe we can say they're going to look like clouds, but rather than it choppy all over the place. So I'm walking away from that fish because I don't want to cut into him. Trying not to lose my little water droplet. And for those of you who might have missed the very beginning, if the internet drops out today, which is quite a probability with everything that's going on in Eastern Victoria at the moment, it's been pretty unpredictable. Please wait a few moments and a few minutes, I should say, and I will start up the live stream again, but it just takes a couple of minutes to get it all going. And hopefully we will just carry on from where we left off. Just going to cut down there. Don't carve toward yourself like that. Lost a drop, but that's not too much of a worry. Now I'm just going to pick this up and flip it around. For those of you who are interested, this is one of my favorite ways to clamp sort of square or rectangular pieces. Just 2 L shapes screwed into a piece of timber. And it means you can just pick up and rotate your work really quickly and easily without unclamping it. And if you're carving a lot of things the same size, you can also just leave your L brackets where they are. Also, I'm going to show you how we can use sort of decorative punches as well. Kind of really simply add quite a lot to our little fish here. So I hope you can see how shallow I am carving this. This method, you really don't need to go deep. I think I might lose that little drop there. So I'm hitting a really tough bit of grain there. You can see I'm really exaggerating that twist as I come through. I don't know if you can see the color. Yeah, I think you might be able to see the color difference there. It's just a fair bit tougher. I'm really having to twist that. You might all be surprised to know that plywood isn't known for its carving properties. But I want to show you all, you don't have to use fancy timbers, or if you've got a couple of good tools, you can kind of just work with whatever scraps you got lying around. Also, if you're into lino cutting, you can just use your exact same tools on it. And same process as well. Got down to the glue. I'm just going to really carefully come along here and remove just this side of the fish here. I know I keep telling you we're going so shallow, but I've gone incredibly shallow there. So I'm just going to emphasize it because I do want to give him a definite border from this slight texture that I think is going to print through. And actually, once I've removed the background, I think I might go around the whole fish and do that. That off. See there, I was carving against the grain. I'm not really that fast. I probably should be, but we want to show movement and texture in this little guy, so why not just jump right in. Come across here, I'm really going to wiggle that to give myself a lot of control. Just snap that off. Cool. So now that I've removed this whole background from my fish, I am just going to come around again with that big V tool. It really doesn't matter what size V tool you use. I'm using a big one because I think it's easier for you to see on the camera than if I was to use a little one. I might be wrong. Again, I'm wiggling around this section, and each wiggle is a cut, is a fresh cut, cutting with a fresh side there. Get really wiggling to get up here. I'm just cutting around this fish because I'm not going to remove too much of this background. I really want to make sure he is separated from that. This is a line of his fin, so I'm going to use the mallet because I really want control and I don't want to slip out and ruin this little section of him. So there we go. Just knock the last of that line out. Gill. Oops, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That happened because I didn't have enough weight on the ball of my left hand there. But not to worry, we can cover that up. Just going to draw some guidelines for the finny bits of the fins. I don't know what you call them. Now I know I haven't come the whole way around my fish yet, but I want to do the other half with him flipped. So I'm just carving everything I can whilst he's in this position. Should I do some lines here? What do you reckon? Lots of decisions. Now to get in here, I've swapped hands. Left hand is now guiding. Now I look like I'm really sort of white knuckling gripping that, but that is quite loose and floppy. I just find it more comfortable to hold my hand like that than like that at the moment. I'm going to use the edge of that V tool to come in quite an angle to cut my way around that. Little droplet there, and because this is quite fibrous-y wood, really hoping he remains, and he did. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Really ugly bit of timber there as we work our way around that. Now, if you didn't want such an issue from your timber grain, just use a really tightly grained timber. Obviously, you want the top of it to be very, very flat. So you can either run that through a thicknesser or hand plane it, or depending where you buy it, it might already come dressed and flat enough. Just removing some of this background where it's getting a little chunky and high near my fish. I'm just going to remove around here. Cool. So That's what we have at the moment. So the majority of this, where I've taken that background away, won't print. We might just get some of the peaks there. If I turn it on its edge, you can see I have not carved down very deep at all there. And that's what's kind of really fun about woodblock printing. You don't have to carve that deep. Now for his little eye, this is something else that I really love. I just have a center punch and a hammer because I just want it to be a dot. There we go. That simple. As I'm coming around these slight little bends, I'm actually, probably can't see because I'm wearing my black shirt, rotating right the way around with my whole body. A couple of speed lines in his tail, I think. See how light and easy that is? I didn't have to make all of this look as hard as I did. Okay, so now I want to add a little bit of decoration to his body because when I print that whole section there will now come out as quite a flat color. So I have, if you've watched previous live streams, you've probably seen this before, a sawn off screwdriver head there. And I can just kind of in a pattern. He's going to be covered in little stars, this guy. See those? You can also get really lovely stamps with like flowers and intricate, you know, wavy lines and all sorts of designs on them. It would give you a slightly neater result than a screwdriver head, but sometimes you just work with what you got. Now to break that up further, but I don't want to do more, I've got, this is a decorative punch I've made myself. You can see it's just a piece of 10mm square metal. That has 1 point. I've also made ones that have a series of points in a row, or the entire end is a grid of points, all the same size for doing recessed backgrounds in relief carving, but I can show you more of that later. I just want to break up some of that background, but not full of the little crosses, just maybe for in his tail. I'm actually being quite careful not, because it's relatively soft timber, being quite careful not to go too deep, because I could really sort of bash through that, but I don't want to. Okay, so now we've got our lovely fish carved and patterned. It is time to do the water. This is the idea that I was hoping would work, so please cross your fingers with me that it will. I want to leave most of it timber and just kind of carve away a few ripples and stuff. So let's all cross our fingers together and hope this works. And like I said before, if you've got any questions, please do just pop them in the chat for me. So I'm just going to work my way around a few little water drops. I think this grain might be a little too fibrousy for a lot of these drops to really show, but we'll just see what happens. If you will have learnt one thing from today's live stream, it is how to wiggle your V-tool. All right, now. Water rings. See, I'm really loose pressure on top of that. And I'm spinning my whole body from here all the way around like that. As I come around that, just move my mallet out the way. I'll do a bunch from this direction and then I'll flip my board around. Did you all hear my dog sighing just then? Letting me know she's not super impressed with this. But I hope you guys will enjoy it. Just trying to get some ripples. Just going to draw a few more in. I've tried to go rings, and as they get sort of further out from my fish, to get little sort of choppy waves incorporated. So let's hope that works. It's an idea. Now here, because I can actually get my whole forearm on the work as I'm coming around these corners, there's no need for me to do this kind of pressure. I can just use my whole arm to anchor. Often you don't get the luxury of having your whole arm on your piece, but if you've got it, if you can, why not? Please, if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Worst is I can't answer them for you. If anyone has suggestions of what you'd like to see in future live streams, please do let me know. Even if you think, you know what, I like the more technically, like skill-based live streams, you know, where we look at grain direction or sharpening or something, or do you prefer this sort of style where we just work on a little project throughout the session that you can then sort of do at home yourselves? I'd also really appreciate it if you guys could just hit that like button on the video, because the more likes we get, the more people can see it, the longer I can keep making these videos for you. We got a question from Deborah and Fergus. What is the original source for the fish jumping? I often, if I don't know what to carve, just carve a fish. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to make it jumping so we can get some of this water happening here? Also, I thought, let's take advantage of this very grainy timber and hope it works as I'm imagining it. But we'll see. It's good to have a fallback pattern or design in your head. Often if I'm stuck for something, it's usually a fish or a duck or a pig will come out. So if you watch these live streams for long enough, you will probably see a lot of fish and ducks and pigs. I'm just trying to keep these waves kind of rolling around a little bit. Wiggle, wiggle. All right. One thing when you're using this sort of L-shaped clamping method to just secure your work, if you've got even like a tiny little bit of wood in there, it will make your whole work wobble. So you can see we're getting some pattern happening. I'm going to flip around this way. Going to have to go left-handed, come up here. We're coming at this from a slightly poor angle, but not to worry. Just going to try and draw these last few as we come around this. There we go. I'm a little worried about how much solid space I've got in his head there, whether or not that will look too grainy when I print, but when you're printing, you can always recarve a bit if you're not happy, so we'll find out together. Just chopping some of these lines into the horizon because I think it might work a little nicer. Now this is a big experiment because this is quite loose grained timber. I have a set of letter punches. I'm going to try punching my initials, but you can see they're very, can you see that? That's a C. They're very, very fine. So they might not show up, but we will find out. I've just got to remember to do it in reverse. It's very strange. Well, I think it might work, everybody. That's exciting. I can't get the C around the wrong way. All right, let's hope I didn't put that in reverse. Got another question from Roderick. Are you going to print this plate during the live feed? Yes, I am. Now that I've pretty much finished carving, I'm just going to clear this tiny, tiny bench and print. Next step. Now I'm using proper printing ink and a proper roller, but I'll tell you how to print if you don't have those. So that is quite a simple plate. You can see how shallow I've carved that whole thing. Just bear with me a moment. I'm just going to clear this bench and get ready to print. Template. I'm just unclamping a block of timber that's on top of my bench because I didn't want to screw my L brackets into a nice bench. So that's off. Now this is going to be a little tight because I really don't have a lot of space, but we'll see what we can do. Ideally, when you are printing wood blocks, it's, you know, if you read a lot of stuff about them, they'll all say you need like a glass or a ceramic plate. for rolling your ink out on. This is, as you can see, just a piece of chipboard, just some laminate, I'm not sure what it's called, on it, just an offcut from something, I don't even know what, but it's giving me a smooth, non-absorbent surface. So that's what you want. I have a rubber roller here. If you don't have one of these, if you're just trying to start out, you could always get really thin coverage of your paint with a really fine sponge. So, you know, a sponge that doesn't have a lot of air bubbles in it or something, and really lightly dab on and dab off your ink, and then just dab it on your block. That would also work if you don't have a roller. And I am using printing ink. If you don't have printing ink, you could just use acrylic paint as well. So I'm just going to put a very small bit of black ink there. That's why I'm wearing my black shirt, in case I spill it on myself. And I've got this blue. This is going to be an experiment. I'm just going to do a tiny bit of blue off to the side and see what happens if I mix them together a little bit. So to roll, actually that's not enough ink. No need to be stingy for you guys. Either the black will eat up all of the blue, or it will be a really nice effect. So you just get your roller and you roll it. Work in some of that blue. It can take a fair bit of rolling to get a nice even coverage. I'm just going to streak that blue across a bit. Don't know if any of it will show up. So you can see I've now got a big patch. I'm actually just going to add, got a chunk of blue there that I don't really want. I wanted it a bit more blendy. So roll, roll, roll. When you think you've got coverage on your roller, or if you're doing it with a sponge, like sponge it off to make sure you've got a thin coverage onto a bit of scrap paper or board, and then go onto this. That's dry on that side. And now I just want to roll over my whole thing. Yeah, I really haven't used enough ink there, because that should be black. You can see how much of that background I'm picking up. So if you don't want that sort of texture, you can come a fair bit deeper. This should give us. We've got another question from Roderick. The blue should take away some of the severity of the black ink, giving it a softer effect. I do hope so. I was really hoping to get little flecks of it showing through, but maybe we're not going to. Now I'm going to just, because it's naturally picking up some of that background with the peaks a little high, I'm going to encourage it to pick up more of that. And I'm actually going to just dab a little bit of blue here and try and roll with that, and then just add that to the water. In my mind, it's going to work, but will it work in real life? No, I don't think it will. That's all right. Things you learn. Now, I'm not happy with how dark that section is so close to my fish. So I'm just going to get a piece of sacrificial paper. Just let me move that ink I'm going to try and remove some of that, the severity of that before I print. I could also just carve it off as well. Would be another option. Then I would have ink all over my tools. Just rub that. Just trying to hit a few more of those peaks, seeing as I've hit so much of this here. You know what? I am going to carve that a fraction because it is really annoying me. Let's see if I can do it without losing everything. See, I'm trying to clamp this with my fingers, which is probably really silly. So please don't you carve like this. Otherwise I'll come and tell you off. If I was on my bigger bench, I would just have my clamp block all set up, and we wouldn't have to be carving this foolish way. But I'm carving away from myself. Okay, so let's try that. That can go there because I need a special wash. I am just using computer paper. I'm going to use 2 bits because I've got ink all over my hands now. So you lay your block down, put your paper on top of that. Try not to twist it or wiggle it. Just rub it all over. Gosh, I'm nervous to see if this has worked for you all. There we go. Very, very pale. I'm going to do one more for you, but I'm really going to go much heavier on the ink than I thought I would need to. And I'm not going to stuff around trying to put blue in it or be fancy. Just move this guy so he doesn't drop off. You absolutely do not want wood chips in your ink. Here we go. Just going to concentrate on the fish here. That's looking better. Can you see how much blacker that is? I was just clearly being stingy with the ink, wasn't I? Really trying to load up my initials. I don't think it's going to work. I think I hammered too hard, and you can see the hole punch of the tool went in. I think this one will give us much nicer results. So if you're watching this live, just wait an hour and I will have this printed copy up on my website. So you can use it as a template for doing your own. If you're not watching this live, it'll be up on my website now, which is olivia@oliviaoconnor.com.au, and it will be at the bottom of the classes page. Let's go again. This way around. We've got a lot of ink on the back. Ready? That on. I have seen people with sort of big felt cloth sort of domey things that they do that with, which I think would also work, especially if you're doing like quite a fine detailed one. Really trying to smoosh a whole lot. Let's hope the extra ink worked. Oh, that's way better. There we go. So big lesson of the day is how to wiggle your V-tool, and don't be stingy with your ink. Just let me tilt this screen up so I can say goodbye to you properly. Cool. So that was lots of fun. This is oil-based ink, so I wasn't planning on getting so much of it on me, but I hope you like that fish. You can see some of the little droplets did retain. A few got lost in the just general texture of the background. But if you really didn't want that, you could carve it deeper. So when you're rolling, you're not going to hit that. I really like the water though, and you can see that horizontal grain from that plywood has kind of added to that a little bit. If you want to do your own, please tag me in those on social media. I think that'll be really fun to see what you guys come up with as well. You can find me on Instagram, just at Olivia O'Connor Carving, or on Facebook, you can just search for Olivia O'Connor Carving, and I'll be there. And again, this will be available on my website 1 hour from now if you're watching it live, or if you're not live, it'll already be up there. Just oliviaoconnor.com.au. Down the bottom of the classes page, there's a lot of downloadable PDFs for you. I hope you have all really enjoyed this. I'm wrapped it actually turned out because I was a little bit nervous it wouldn't. Hope you all have a lovely weekend. Thank you for joining. And if you have suggestions for future live streams, please pop them in the comments. If you've got questions after this has gone live, please pop those in the comments of this video, and I will check those regularly and get back to you. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye. Oh, here we go. Bye.